Once President Trump signed his tax reform plan into law, we had a lot of billionaires speaking out in favor of it because obviously it cuts their taxes. It puts more money in their pocket, even though they don't need more money because they're just sitting on billions of dollars. Well, they were excited nonetheless, and they're speaking out in favor of it. However, there's one billionaire who has decided to take a reasonable approach to this, and he stated that he's not really in favor of Donald Trump's tax reform plan. This is what Bill Gates had to say.
Do you think in that context, the last tax bill made sense, where the benefits of the bill disproportionately went to people like you?
Your basic point is correct. It was not a progressive tax bill. It was a regressive tax bill. People who are wealthier tended to get dramatically more benefits than the middle class or those who are poor. And so it runs counter to the general trend you'd like to see, where the safety net is getting stronger and those at the top are paying higher taxes.
You'd be okay paying higher taxes?
No, I need to pay higher taxes. I've paid in absolute more taxes, over $10 billion, than anyone else, but the government should require the people in my position to pay significantly higher taxes.
So I think that that's really important, so I want to repeat what he said. This is what a billionaire said. The government should require people in my position to pay significantly higher taxes. It's pretty much the biggest no-shit Sherlock statement anyone can make ever, but it's so rare to have a billionaire who isn't brazenly greedy. It's rare, so that's why I want to shine a spotlight on it. Now, we shouldn't just increase Bill Gates' taxes because he's telling us to. I don't think we need their permission to do that. We should do it anyway, but nonetheless, the fact that he is coming out against Donald Trump's tax plan is really important, because not very many billionaires are willing to speak out against it because obviously it benefits them. And really, this is something that I've always struggled to understand as a peasant. If you have $1 billion, if you have multiple billions of dollars, you've bought, a mansion or two, you've bought the car of your dreams, you've bought your yacht, you have a vacation home somewhere, but then you still have a lot of money. How can you possibly spend all that money? You have everything you can ever dream of, and yet, a lot of these billionaires, most of these billionaires are greedy. They want more. I don't get it. We need to live in a society where we take care of the poor. And the way that I always think about the way society should be set up is I use the example given to us by John Rawls, a political philosopher who came up with this notion of the veil of ignorance. Now, what the veil of ignorance is it's this hypothetical situation to where you are designing a society. You're creating social institutions, economic institutions, governments, you're setting up an international community. And during this process, as you're setting all of this up, you are removed from your traditional biases. You have no idea what your position will be in the society you're creating. You don't know if you're going to be poor. You don't know if you're going to be rich. You don't know if you're going to be gay, straight. You don't know if you're going to be born in a first world or third world country. You don't know what your position is going to be. Now, given that lack of information, how do you think most self-interested individuals would design society? They would make sure it was as equitable as possible, because you don't want to design a society where the poorest of the poor can barely survive, or they struggle to find water or food. You want to make sure that if you end up getting in the worst position possible, if you're born in a third world country that's poor, that life is going to be okay, that you're going to have the bare necessities and maybe then some. So this, to me, has always been a guiding principle. I mean, we can't undo what's already there, right? We can't start all over from scratch, but what we can do is envision what it's like for other people, try to exercise empathy, and make sure that our world is set up in a way that is as equitable as possible, so that way those in unfortunate situations who didn't have a choice, who were just born into that situation, don't have shitty lives. I mean, we have a world where the president was born into wealth, and then we have people in third world countries and even in the United States that can't afford to feed their children. I think that's really unfair. So if you were under this veil of ignorance, you would make sure that you're designing a society that doesn't screw over everyone. You would make sure that we have everything we need, and you wouldn't maximize the benefits people who are wealthy would already get. In fact, if you were in that predicament, you probably wouldn't even give people the ability to become disgustingly rich. But the problem is that empathy is difficult to come by. Politicians have no empathy, which is why this notion of the veil of ignorance is really interesting to me. It's because since we can't really be empathetic, the way that you get people to think in a way, or to think about designing society in a more equitable fashion, is to get them to consider their own self-interest. So we should just strive to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to move up the economic ladder, so that way they never have to worry about food. That's the type of society we should have. However, these billionaires, they are completely detached from ordinary human beings. They have no conception of what's equitable. To them, $1 million is not a lot of money. I mean, we heard Donald Trump say that when he was growing up, his father gave him a small loan of $1 million. $1 million is life-changing. So they have no conception of what normal Americans go through. They don't know what it's like to struggle to put food on the table. They don't ever have to worry about not being able to go to a doctor because they can't afford their copay, even if they have insurance. They don't know what it's like to have to call into work because you can't find a babysitter for your kids. So that's why when I see someone like Bill Gates come out and say, I should be paying significantly higher taxes, I think he's a deep thinker, and I think that he's a moral person. Now, with that being said, you can make the case, not to shit on Bill Gates, that being a billionaire, generally speaking, is inherently problematic because you shouldn't have that much wealth. Nobody should have that much wealth. Now, thankfully, he's saying, I need to be paying more in taxes. Take more of my money so we can fund social safety net programs. He directly said that. So that's my 2 cents. It's not too common when you see a billionaire say something that doesn't make him look like a smug, selfish asshole and a greedy pig. And we have one now with Bill Gates. So thanks, Bill. Maybe if you have any billionaire friends, I'm sure you do, you could convince them to adopt your worldview because, maybe then they'd stop buying politicians and maybe we'd be in a better predicament. I don't know, but it's a rarity to see a billionaire actually thinking about other people besides themselves. This segment of the Humanist Report was brought to you by 7coffeeroasters.com. They're a minority-owned small business in Seattle, and they specialize in roasting unique and delicious coffee that's not actually roasted until you've placed your order. And the best part is that they actually ship out all orders within 24 hours, so you get your coffee and it still tastes fresh when it arrives. And to boot, they're also a progressive company that pays their workers a living wage and actually cares about the country. So to support them and experience the deliciousness of their coffee, you can check out 7coffeeroasters.com.